All right, and then just some general instructions about public comment today before I pass it over to our presenters. When public comment is requested today, I, the moderator, will turn on the WebEx question and answer feature to facilitate public comment. Comments should be limited to the topic that is addressed on that specific agenda item. We will have instructions displayed on the screen each time, and WebEx members may click on the question mark, typically at the lower corner, right-hand corner of their WebEx screen, type the word comment in the text box, and then click send to have their request be recognized. You may also choose to use the raise hand feature by clicking the hand icon at the bottom of your computer's WebEx screen, or if you're a call-in or audio-only participant, you can press *3 on your device to raise your hand. You will then be invited to unmute yourself, and at the end of your comment, you will then be muted and we'll move on to the next person who has public comment. I believe that is all the instructions I have for public comment.
Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Fall Educational Advisory Group meeting. We have a very full agenda today, including a few guest speakers that will cover a variety of topics. My name is Mark Isaacs, and I'm the Senior Engineer of the Hardware Certification Schools Group. I will now call on the other members of the AG and have them provide a quick introduction. First up, Tess, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Tess Dubois-Carey, and I'm with Universal Technical Institute. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Next up is Rich Escalambra, who is not able to make it today, and Phil is up after that. I believe he will be joining us later. So Craig Johnson, if you're with us. Okay, no Craig. Ruben Parra, I know you're there.
Hi, everybody. This is Ruben Parra, and I'm with California Automotive Teachers and also a professor of automotive technology with Skyline College.
Perfect, thank you. Bud Rice.
Hi, Bud Rice here. I'm with Cal ABC. Thank you.
Kevin Rogers.
Kevin Rogers, retired Cosumnes River College automotive instructor.
Thank you, Kevin. And finally, Steve Tomare, who is not with us today. He's from Rio Hondo College. So let's dive right in. Denise Cunningham, you're up first with Cars for Schools update.
All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. And let me see. Do I have control over the screen here, or do I ask to have the?
This is the moderator. You have control now, so you can either use the arrows on your keyboard, or there should be arrows at the top that let you flip between slides.
Okay, I'm looking. Aha.
There
All
you
right.
go.
Very good. Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. We're just going to, this is a brief update on the Cars for Schools program. We did a presentation very similar to this at the Bar Advisory Group meeting earlier this year. And this is updated a little bit, and we'll just go over it and explain, hopefully answer any questions you all have about it. So in overview, through the program, BAR is providing retired CAP vehicles to publicly funded automotive technical training programs operated by high schools, community colleges, or regional occupational programs. And subject to availability, schools may request the year, make, and model of vehicle desired, whether they can request various options: manual transmission, automatic transmission, diesel, gas, or hybrid vehicle, and including other and also other options as the school may see fit, such as hybrid or something like that. Typically what we do on this is we provide once the school has signed a memorandum of understanding with BAR on the program, what we'll do is we'll actually send them a spreadsheet that is made out to where they can pretty easily tell us what kind of vehicles they want, what they're looking for, and maybe a little bit about why, and the number of miles they're willing to travel to get those vehicles. We have 35 dismantlers statewide, and so obviously not every school is going to have a dismantler right next to them. There may be some travel required for them to pick up a vehicle. A little bit about the history. We started this program up in January of 2020, and we got a start on it, and then everything pretty much died in March of 2020 due to the pandemic. And so there are 12 schools that signed agreements with us, and we got a few vehicles delivered, and then everything kind of shut down for a while because the schools, weren't having in-person training. Beginning in July 2022, we resumed expansion again, and because we have to provide these slides early for a public meeting, these numbers are already a little bit out of date. We've got on the presentation here, it's showing 39 schools, 13 community colleges, 5 regional occupational programs, and 20 high schools. It's actually now 14 community colleges and 40 schools in all. And this afternoon, once I'm through with this presentation, I've got another 3 memorandums of understanding that I need to sign for additional schools. So in reality, we're up to 43 schools at this point, and we have 69 vehicles that have been assigned to schools, of which 6 are hybrids. And you can see this is once again the 39 here, but you can kind of see the distribution is, a lot in Southern California, a few in the San Francisco Bay Area, and Sacramento, San Joaquin Valley region. There basically is none in Northern California. We're still reaching out to schools there, but so far we don't have any takers there. And we have been asked, or it was requested of us to how many of the public schools were working with served disadvantaged communities. And so we did a calculation to our best of our ability. And we have about 62% at this point that are in or near disadvantaged communities, and about 38% that are not close to disadvantaged communities. So one of the things that we did is once we got a year or so into the program here, we started sending out requests for feedback from instructors to kind of evaluate the program. One, to find out, make sure we understood what they were using the vehicles for. 2, to find out what they liked about it, and 3, what they thought could be improved. The vehicles are, for the most part, used for lecture demonstration or student practice, to allow the students experience it, removing, replacing parts, various diagnostic routines and so forth that the instructors set up. And the types of classes that have requested vehicles are general auto repair, smog check, auto body, and introduction to hybrid technology. Reasons that instructors might like the program, or reasons they did like it, they like the idea that they could choose from a range of different vehicles depending on the class's needs. They didn't need to worry about damaging a vehicle. Provided all the parts are returned, we don't really care if if the engine comes back in the trunk. It's all good, because the vehicles are going to be crushed ultimately and sold for um, their metal value. They indicated that they liked the fact that they could bring vehicles back and order other vehicles from year to year, and certainly we're okay with that. We do have a contractual limit with the dismantlers at this point, that each dismantler site doesn't only has to provide us with 10 vehicles per year, and they have to get those vehicles back after toward the end of their contract, which is a 3-year contract. They get those vehicles back because they make a profit off of selling the vehicles. So we do need to bring them back, but they are contractually obligated to give us 10 per dismantler site per year. So that gives us a 350 theoretical limit on the number of vehicles we can provide in any given year. So on the requests for improvement, one of the main requests, the biggest thing that I think they indicated they needed help with, is transporting vehicles to the schools, and actually help transporting the vehicles back to the dismantler, as that's a required part of this. I'll go over a little bit more about what we're doing to try and help the schools out with this a little bit later. It's a multi-layered problem. The deeper we get into it, the more we discover there are various layers to the issues surrounding getting those vehicles out to the schools. They also wanted us to provide a report prior to pickup of the reason for retirement and condition of the vehicle, and they wanted to provide more vehicles to each school. Right now we're providing usually about 3. We're limiting the schools to 3 in any given year. And that is just simply to make sure that there's enough cars to go around for those schools that would like to participate. Lastly, they asked that, to work on lowering wait times for rarer vehicles, and we'll go over that. Obviously, that is if they're requesting a very rare vehicle, that's not entirely within our control or the dismantler's control. These vehicles come in when they come in, and so some of these requests we may be able to help with more than others, and we'll go over that here in just a second. So our plans for future improvement. Certainly, we want to continue outreach and increase the number of participating schools. We have staff in our vehicle retirement unit that are spending a fair amount of time in some cases, quite a bit of time reaching out to schools to let them know, about the program and what's available and answer questions, and to, sometimes deal with the disconnects between those who are actually doing the teaching and the administrations that actually sign the memorandums of understanding. Um, there is a lot of back and forth dialogue that is required to navigate that, and we have staff that have been working with both ends. I think they've been successful in their efforts to talk with both ends of the school administration, the instructors and the administrators. We're going to explore ways to, and we are exploring ways to provide schools with discounted towing and transport. And this really breaks down into two areas. One is short term and long term. Long term, I think we'll have I have some ideas for things that we might be able to do on our next set of dismantler contracts, which come up in which are scheduled to be bid in April of 2025. We're going to also work on the short term. Is really just a question of when a school lets us know that, look, we're having trouble picking the car up, we don't think we can do it, etc. We will try and reach out to folks to see if we can find anybody to help them. And in some cases, the dismantler has stepped up and they've been able to transport the vehicle, and they were willing to do it. We're trying to make contacts with other dismantler and towing groups to see if we can find anyone who's interested in assisting us with that. It's obviously it's one of those things that we can't. I don't think we're going to be able to get enough agreement to enough participants to provide towing to every school who wants it. We may be able to assist some schools, and certainly we'll try. But I think our biggest success is going to be in 2025 with once we can set up the new memorandums of understanding with the schools and new contracts with the dismantlers. We are exploring ways to provide schools with basic reports on vehicle condition at the time of offer, and hope to have something set up on that fairly soon. And we're exploring the ways to increase the number of vehicles provided, but that is really a function of how many cars the dismantlers are under contract to provide to us. Right now, they're under contract, as I mentioned earlier, to provide 10 vehicles per location. And I won't have a chance to amend that contract until 2025. However, we have not reached capacity yet. As you can see, there's only been 69 vehicles delivered, and we still have room for a lot more. So we have plenty of room to grow at the moment. And in 2025, I'm going to see if I can expand the number of vehicles that each dismantler can provide us. In regard to what was asked about I think in the previous slide, I'd indicated that we were asked if we could provide some of the rarer vehicles more quickly. And yeah, unfortunately, that's dependent on the number of vehicles retired per year. And the number of vehicles retired per year has gone down over 60% in the past 3 years due to a variety of factors um, related to used car prices, et cetera. And so until we can actually get um, participation in the vehicle retirement program up, then it's unlikely that we would be able to get rarer vehicles more quickly. It's only so often that a Jaguar or something like that would come through and for through our program. And then lastly, we do want to partner with educators in the automotive repair industry on ways to improve the program. And I really would say that I would like to, uh, my contact information is available here on the next slide. And I would appreciate it if educators, members of the EAG who are interested in this. I would appreciate your contact and maybe just discussing that with you, with this program with you, from the point of view of an educator, to get a better idea of how we can assist and to kick around ideas and so forth. I think that would be very helpful and would be much appreciated. And I think that is it for the presentation, and we can open it up for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Denise. That is such a great story. EAG panel members, any questions or comments?
This is the moderator. I see Bud Rice's hand is raised.
Yes, I might have missed it, Denise, but is there any help with the curriculum side of the fence where you're helping them get their cars and stuff, but is there any help on the curriculum side of the equation? Thank you.
Yes, as far as what we're providing, not at this time. The program is conceived actually as it was a bag member's idea, and I forget I don't have the name of the person on who made that recommendation on the tip of my tongue, but it was conceived because we had all these vehicles that were retiring, and we happened to and there were schools who could use these vehicles for students to actually work on and so forth. And we had something that the schools need, and we're trying to provide it to them. I don't know. Certainly, my unit. I don't think that we would be in a position to. We probably would not be the appropriate ones as far as expertise to provide tips on curriculum with these vehicles. So no, there's nothing we're doing at this point. But once again, I think and this is where I want to encourage people, if they would, to actually contact me and talk talk to me and maybe kick around some ideas, is to kind of brainstorm this and find out what we can do to help the schools. I do know that the high schools are the ones that seem to need this the most. And those are the ones who are contacting us the most. As you could see, there's um, quite a few more high schools than colleges that have elected to participate. So yeah, that's all I can tell you there, Bud.
Understood. Thank you very much for that, Denise. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bud.
This is a moderator. I have a hand raised from Ruben Para.
Ruben?
Oh, and Ruben, you are muted.
Okay. So Denise, I was asked this question, I couldn't answer it. Is there a list of cars available for a specific area? Like say if somebody is in, wherever they may be, if there's a list of what's available for them in that area.
And and the thing is, we don't have a list of what's available because it's pretty much wide open. What we have is vehicles are being retired through our program all the time. Even in our diminished participation in the past couple years, we're still retiring 20,000 vehicles a year. And essentially, what the instructors are they're given an opportunity to select specific vehicles that they want, or they're given the opportunity to select a range of vehicles, like maybe 2000 to 2007 domestic or Asian or European. And then what happens is, we kind of wait till those come in.
Okay.
Because the dismantlers, when they get these vehicles, as I say, they're coming in 20,000 a year. So they're coming in all the time. And the dismantlers are obligated to crush those vehicles within a certain amount of days. So when we get a request from a school, we contact the dismantlers nearby and say, say for instance, the school has requested a 2000 to 2007 domestic. We contact the dismantlers and say, look, there's a school that wants this. They want a 2000 2007 domestic with an automatic transmission, and they and they want it in relatively decent shape. When something from our program comes through like with that, please contact us. And so we send them that information. We send them the sheet, this Excel spreadsheet from that comes from the school. And then one of our representatives, and I should mention her, Azra Nasifovic, she constantly, will call dismantlers to follow up. Hey, you remember we've got this vehicle out there, or this request for vehicle out there. Have you seen anything yet? And actually, it's the turnaround for the most part is not too bad. It's a few weeks in general, and once they identify the car that they've got one that the dismantler has one that they think fits the bill, they'll contact us. We'll send one of our representatives out. They take pictures of it and kind of figure out if it looks okay, and then we contact the school and see if they're interested. And if they are, the dismantler submits for a non-revivable junk receipt. Once they get that, we let the school know that they can go pick it up. I know that was a really long answer to your question, Ruben. I did that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Right. Moderator, any more hands up for the panel members?
This is a moderator. I see a hand raised from Testa Boy Carey.
Okay. Best.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate that presentation. Mine was more of a comment. I just wanted to let the group know that on a much, much smaller scale, UTI does something similar, donating assets to high schools. So, but again, we don't retire them in the same capacity, but I just wanted to put it out there as a comment. But thank you. It was really interesting to learn more about the size and scope of this program.
Excellent.
Thank you. And once again, if there's anything you wish to discuss or any of you wanted to discuss, I would appreciate a phone call so we can kind of kick around ideas.
I will definitely connect with you because there may be times where we have something to retire and maybe not a recipient. So I think there could be some opportunities there for us to partner. So I've made note of your contact information.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Moderator, any more hands up?
This is the moderator. Appears there are no further hands from our panel members. Did you want to move to public comment?
Yes, please.
All right. 1 second while I get that set up. This is the moderator, and at the direction of the host, for boards, I usually say the boards. um, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And I do see I have a couple hands raised. So I'm going to go in the order that they were received. First, I have Jean Lopez. And Jean, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Welcome.
Hi, and thanks for taking my call. Thank you for the presentation, Denise. And one of my questions was already answered, and so, and it was, how many retired vehicles are there? And if there's 20,000 plus a year, that could support quite a few schools. So that was going to be my second question: is how many schools are participating, and how does a school apply to participate?
So after, as I mentioned earlier, as of the end of the day today, there will be 43 schools with signed memorandums of understanding. And the way and that would allow them to participate. And the memorandum of understanding is basically a contract that says, here's the rules. We have to, the vehicles can't be driven on public roads ever because they're actually supposed to be crushed according to our agreements with the Air Resources Board. So they can't be driven on public roads. They can be used for in the case of our current MOUs, they can be used until May of 2025, and at that time they would have to be returned. It specifies a few other legalistic requirements. And so that would be the mechanism for them to participate. And basically what we do to try and let schools know is we reach out to them. The folks in our vehicle retirement unit have lists of schools searching, they do searches for schools that particularly high schools that do automotive repair. And, when they find schools that still do automotive repair, because there's a lot of fluctuation in that. We found that the lists that we've received from official groups of what high schools do automotive repair classes, we found that sometimes those are long, far behind the times. And so a lot of times we're having to rely on websites, et cetera, to find out which schools do it, and we reach out to them. We reach out to the instructors primarily to see if they're interested. And if they contact us and let us know that they're interested, we send them out a blank MOU with instructions, of what's necessary, how to participate in the program, et cetera. Does that answer?
Yeah, and I apologize. I had a little trouble getting on the WebEx, so and so I missed that first 10 minutes of your presentation. So I thank you for that. I think it's important. I think Bud Rice mentioned curriculum, and in my experience, and Denise, I'm a repairer. I work for Sidner's Collision Center, and so as a repairer who is involved in their in one market of our area in Southern California, I'm working with 5 different high schools and a couple of community colleges, and it was just at UTI yesterday. So I'm pretty well involved in all this. But curriculum, Bud, I believe that task lists from the Automotive Service Excellence and on the collision side, certainly ICAR offers curriculum to these schools. I'm just excited to know that there are cars available, and along with ASC and ICAR, we are engaging students to become entry-level technicians who can perform, 5 skill sets with little or no supervision. And these cars will certainly help us get that move in that direction. So I appreciate what everyone's doing here. Thanks.
Sounds great, Gene. Thank you.
Yes, and I think if I could add one more thing in response to Gene's comment there, and that is the program does retire a lot of vehicles. 20,000 a year. Will likely be retiring more once regulations change, and really depends on the ability to use them in the schools. Would obviously depend on the quality of the cars. Some are better than others, but also we just need to really see evidence that there's a demand. When we first started this, we, I had trouble convincing people that we'd even, need 100. Much less 350 that we had, kind of written into our contract with the dismantlers. And I think we can go for more than that in the next contract, provided there's the demand. And that's, I guess that remains to be seen.
Hey, moderator, who's up next?
All right, this is the moderator. Next we have Christina Kubrin. And Christina, I will request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Me and allowing me to make a comment. My name is Christina Kubran. I am a startup, 352 Innovation, and I initially started this because my background as a mechanical engineer is predominantly diesel electric locomotives, which fundamentally operate just like all these EVs. And to help our communities and help technicians like my brother and my friends that own shops, I've working with ASE to develop a training program for experienced technicians to help them understand the fundamentals, because I realize that understanding the control systems is really the biggest stumbling block for a lot of technicians. And as I don't know if anyone's familiar with ARCHES, the agency California created to go after the hydrogen hub funding. So proud to say I'm a member, and we were awarded the hydrogen hub funding. And the inaugural workforce development working group meeting is coming up next week. that I'm going to be a part of. And so I'm looking forward to taking the educational and workforce development component of Arches, which is going to include construction and storage and, you know, everything so far beyond automotive. But I'm looking forward to being able to represent the automotive technicians in that component of workforce development, but also taking a lot of that hydrogen training and safety and applying it to help technicians. And so I've been putting together a curriculum and working with ASE to get it accredited as I'm developing it. And so if I can provide any feedback as far as the hydrogen side of things and the safety of it that I gather from Arches, I'm happy to help in any way that I can to help educate that. And that's all I wanted to mention about that. So thank you so much for letting me talk.
That all sounds very interesting. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Our next individual is Jonathan Summers. And Jonathan, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Jonathan Summers, California Smog and Automotive Institute. Denise, I'm currently working with the Riverside County of Education, and I don't know if I caught it or not, but is there a contact person that I put the high schools in touch with to be a part of the program?
Yes, I mean, first, you're always welcome to give my information, but the probably the best thing for them to remember is it's Cars for Schools at dca.ca.gov. So that's you know, there's no dots or anything in there. It's just Cars for Schools at dca.ca.gov. And that is the email address where folks send in inquiry requests and so forth. But you are absolutely welcome to give them my number that's on that contact on the contact sheet, and which is also posted on the website in the contact sheet. You're welcome to give them that, and I'll make sure they get to the right party.
Fantastic, Denise. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. That was a fantastic discussion. Thank you. Up next, we have Tim Corcoran with an update on California New Motor Vehicle Board. Go ahead, Tim.
Good afternoon, all. And first of all, I just want to say it's really nice to see so many familiar names, both from the bar group and also on the list of attendees. Truly appreciate the opportunity to be here. And also want to say I have some familiarity with the CAP program. And if Denise is still in the room, I just want to say kudos not only on a great presentation, but knowing full well just how many varying and sometimes opposing interests there are in the CAP program and VR, those vehicles. I can only imagine, the effort you had to put in to make that program a reality, and it's completely worthwhile. I'm very impressed and really also happy to hear that you're exploring how you can provide additional emphasis on historically disadvantaged communities. I think that's another great area to focus your efforts. So again, just kudos, Denise. Excellent presentation. And thank you to our fabulous Madam Moderator. I appreciate your help getting through the presentation here. Right now, I'm seeing just a list of the items. Is this what's going to be viewed for my presentation, or are we going to be looking at slides?
This is the moderator. This is what I had grabbed from the website.
Want to share your screen, Tim?
Well, the problem is it might vary. I think the substance is the same. This is fine unless there's any objections from anyone on the group. I think this communicates it just as well as the slides would, but
Okay.
I'll ask our host to weigh in on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm here to talk about the Takata recall, and I think with this group, more than others I've presented to in the past, this group's probably more familiar. So I'll probably speed through much of this, but please, I do encourage, any questions. I don't want to go so fast and skip over something you might find valuable. So at the end, we'll answer those questions, hopefully. I also don't claim to be an expert necessarily on the Takata recall. In fact, a big part of this is getting a group of all the experts, all the stakeholders on this issue is really what the goal is, as you'll see as we get through this presentation. But before we jump into it, I think it's important to explain just who we are, the New Motor Vehicle Board. So I'll just give you just a bit of a highlight or some background regarding our organization. We started in 1967 originally as the New Car Dealers Policy and Appeals Board, very narrow focus, and really primarily set up to monitor the industry at large, focusing on looking at advertising practices at the time of dealers, and overseeing DMV's activities related to licensing and regulation of new car dealers in the state. Did have some additional regulatory authority and powers, but it wasn't until 1974 that we were reconstituted as the New Motor Vehicle Board. And at that time, all of the licensing and regulatory work, including licensing of manufacturers and distributors, was absorbed fully into Department of Motor Vehicles, specifically into their occupational licensing branch in their investigations division, which left for us a much narrower scope, but also a very focused scope where we handle franchise disputes. So we're a quasi-judicial agency situated administratively within the Department of Motor Vehicles, but treated separately and under the oversight of California State Transportation Agency. We're situated to offer a alternative to the civil courts for dealers and their franchisors to settle their disputes relative to their franchise agreements in the state. And the focus is on assuring a healthy new motor vehicle marketplace that affords consumer protection and availability of dealers, not only for sales of vehicles in the state, but also, of course, for warranty service after the sale. And among other duties, but those are really our primary focus. And then if we can scroll down, Madam Moderator. We'll be looking for the CalSTA Core 4 item. Can I control from my screen? I'll try.
This is the moderator. Is it showing the whole document or only showing part of the document right now?
On mine, I'm good. Now I can see where slide 3. Yeah.
I had to fix the syncing of my screen so everyone can see it.
No worries. I see it on my screen, so hopefully everyone else can as well. But if not, again, I don't think it's critical to the presentation here. So to understand, given our narrow scope, as I just discussed, in order to understand where we have a role to play in this Takata recall action item that we're going to be talking about, you have to understand California State Transportation Agency's Core 4. So our agency secretary, Hope Somashakin, called upon all of the departments, including our board, to contribute to his call to action to address these 4 pillars, specific, of course, to the transportation system in California. Those 4 pillars being safety, so traffic safety primarily, of course, equity, economic prosperity, and climate action, which brings us to the Takata recall effort. So our board, situated between new car dealers and their franchisors, which are the automakers and the distributors, we felt placed us in a unique position where we have direct access to both of these entities for the purpose of better understanding and hopefully facilitating some solutions with respect to the airbag recall and where we stand with it. So again, this is where I could probably speed through some of this, some background on the recall. So it was and remains a historic recall in that it affects 67 million vehicles and across 19 different manufacturers. And after the first 2 years, despite all the traditional recall outreach efforts, 48% of the vehicles were still unrepaired. And that's a lot of vehicles when you're talking about 67 million. In 2017, there was a settlement with Takata. And as you probably know, Takata no longer exists as a corporation. There was a settlement that funded several creative measures to dive deep into why motorists are not having the vehicle repaired. And then let's see if I can get to the next page. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so under that settlement and the activities funded pursuant to it, there was improved data collection management that took place. They explored creative means of identifying these vehicles beyond just simply mailing mailers out, including vehicle sighting and tagging. And what we're talking about there is using license plate reader technology primarily, expanded outreach, as you might imagine, making phone calls, using social media, and engaging with celebrities for outreach activities, and also the direct mail, as you can see on the screen here. Over 30 attempts were made to each individual identified, over 30 mailers going to the homes of these at least suspected operators of the vehicles. And they also explored the idea of offering sweepstakes to incentivize motorists to have the vehicle repaired. Also on the topic of trusted name, NHTSA, through various contractors that were working under these settlement funds programs and special settlement administrator, engaged with various government entities, because mailers from a third party that might look like an advertisement may not be trusted as much as a notification that comes from a government entity or from a licensee of a government entity. And to talk a little more about that, I would like to ask Clay if he could take it from here, because BAR was absolutely instrumental when it came to these interagency partnerships that arose in the 2017-2018 timeframe. Clay?
Man, you're throwing me a curveball, Tim. No, appreciate the opportunity. Obviously, a lot of work was done around on this topic. We integrated safety recall information into the smog check program. Now, as part of the vehicle inspection report that every consumer walks away with at the conclusion of their smog check inspection, includes any information on open safety recalls that apply to that vehicle. So, obviously a big part of our mission is educating consumers, helping consumers make good decisions. Obviously, the repair of these safety recalls is generally free. So arming consumers with that information, that their vehicle does in fact have an open safety recall, and giving them information on how to get it fixed was really critical. We also provide that information in both English and Spanish to accommodate kind of the diverse population within California. We've also been working very recently, AB 471 recently gave us the authority to consolidate our existing brake and lamp program. Brake and a lamp certificate are required for salvage title vehicles. In order to revive a salvage title vehicle, this program will replace our consolidated safety program, will replace our brake and lamp program, and actually satisfying, completing the open safety recalls on the vehicle is going to be part of this safety program, meaning that in order to get a safety system inspection certificate of compliance, you will have to get those open safety recalls repaired. So another way we're driving compliance, helping to protect consumers, and really appreciate the opportunity to work with you, Tim, years ago on this topic, and now again moving forward, as it appears that there may be some more important recall and a lot more outreach that's needed to get information out to consumers on recalls moving forward. So thanks again for all your efforts in this area, Tim.
No, thank you, Clay. And again, I just can't overstate just what a great partner Clay and the Bureau of Automotive Repair has been already, and I look forward to continuing it. So that leads us to where we are today. What we've learned, what NHTSA's learned, which in the collective of the National Safety Council, which represents many of the automakers, leading the charge to get these vehicles repaired. What we've learned is after 85%, it is extremely difficult to get these vehicles in for a repair. And a number of creative activities have been engaged and continue on. You know, NHTSA hosts an annual summit dedicated to this topic, talking with the automakers about where they stand, how many vehicles remain on the road, with an emphasis on the vehicles that are most at risk, and creative ways to reach those folks. But it's very hard to move the needle now. And 85% sounds like a great percentage, but when you start with 67 million vehicles, that leaves a whole lot of cars on the road. And we estimate that about 750,000 of the remaining vehicles are right here in California, which places us in the top 3. And that's not a top 3 we want to be on. So we think it's important for us, recognizing, NHTSA obviously has a national view here, and their efforts are spread about throughout the country. We think us here in California, through a combined effort, with other government bodies, with industry, with community-based organizations, we might be able to focus our efforts and to repair these 750,000 vehicles here in our state, most of which do exist in the Los Angeles, Riverside, San Bernardino area. They exist in the top 5 metro areas in the country, although there's certainly hot spots elsewhere in California. And I also want to point out, this is, largely an issue of equity as well. According to the National Safety Council, while Hispanic community is underrepresented and historically, disadvantaged, they're overrepresented in the data here. So once again, there's a disproportionate impact on these communities, particularly in Spanish-speaking communities. They've had a lot of difficulty penetrating into those communities and encouraging folks to bring the vehicles in. So providing an emphasis, again, a collaborative effort here in the state with an emphasis on reaching into these communities, I think is appropriate. Also, we see the same trend when it comes to income. More affluent groups repair the vehicles in that first 85% group, leaving lower income folks holding on to these vehicles, likely unaware. These are, potentially 3rd, 4th, 5th owners on some of these vehicles, may not even be aware of the hazard that exists with this vehicle. And for those who don't know, again, I'm sure many of you do, but driving around with one of these vehicles, particularly the riskier ones, the riskier models, this airbag inflator device is like it's like a little IED in their steering column, their steering wheel. And it's just waiting for that trigger to be lit, which is an accident. Once that accident hits, and if they have a faulty regulator, it does explode as designed, but what's not designed and what's not intended is for it to shred into shrapnel. And that's what happens in the case of these vehicles, throwing shrapnel into the throat and face of the motorist. So it's a terrifying situation. And you have to worry, especially for the folks that may not even be aware that their vehicle is affected. Excuse me while I scroll on. So that's what brings us to really this meeting. I'm engaging with a number of internal and external stakeholders. What our intention here is to not duplicate the effort that NHTSA has ongoing. Again, I mentioned their annual Automaker Summit, but this is something intended to focus our efforts in California, since we're in the top 3 in terms of remaining unrepaired vehicles, but also because we have access to a number of stakeholders that aren't necessarily included in existing efforts ongoing by NHTSA or anyone else. I don't know that anyone's really specifically tapped into Bureau of Automotive Repair, into Office of Traffic Safety, and into our dealer network. Has anyone asked the dealers from their perspectives, what are some of the challenges, some of the obstacles? So that's what we're talking about here. This is a instance where I think, and I hope everyone agrees it's important to focus on, whether you're a dealer, whether you're an independent repair facility, whether you're an educator, whether you're an automaker. Certainly, I imagine from consumers themselves, I think we can all agree that this is an important objective, repairing these vehicles. So we would like to encourage a collaborative effort to identify and overcome the barriers. Which brings us to our next steps. So as I spoke to before, we have a good idea from a motorist perspective what some of these barriers are to having the vehicle repaired. And they vary widely depending on the particular group subset of motorists out there. But there are some trends that we hear. Some of them relate to the experience when they do, if they reach out to a dealer and schedule the repair. There have been stories of difficulties in getting the vehicle to the dealer, difficulty getting parts for their vehicle, sometimes multiple visits to the dealer. So we have an idea of what those motorist perspectives are and those barriers through the for our motorists. But what we're really interested in learning is from the folks in the industry, from the dealer. When we talk about the dealer, what would a technician say, or the parts counter person, the service writer, the warranty clerk? What would those individuals say are barriers from their perspective in fixing these vehicles? Is the parts shortage or supply chain issues still a major issue, and do those apply to the Takata recall? Does it vary from one make to another, even if the inflator is the same or similar? Is there a very different repair procedure? When we talk about the repair procedure itself, are dealers incentivized to do the work? And not just do the work, but are they incentivized to go above and beyond to roll out the red carpet for a customer if they do call? Because it's a tremendous task to get the final 10 or 15% of these motors back to the dealer. And if you tell them it's going to be 3 months before they can look at the car, or if you tell them I'm going to have it in once to inspect it, and then you're going to have to bring it back again in a few weeks to do the repair, you're likely to lose them. So we don't want to waste that effort of getting in contact with that motorist. Once we have them, we want them to be treated like this is a priority because we think it is. So are there incentives to make that happen? Mobile repairs, are those a possibility? Particularly for the vehicle owners, a large percentage of them that rely on this vehicle to get themselves to work, maybe to 2 jobs, and to get their children to school. Dropping off the vehicle could be a huge hardship. Loaner vehicles, those types of things we'd like to explore. From the OEM's perspective, and I alluded to this earlier when I talked about supply chain shortages, do those still exist? Do OEMs and their distributors have a stockpile of these inflators ready? And do they have a system for expediting the shipment of those devices to the dealers once those motorists bring the vehicles into the shop? So these are the types of perspectives we're interested in getting. And I think you have a very unique opportunity here. And what I'm hoping that we can receive from you is continued partnership. And right offhand, I think you folks are experts and certainly the EAG group, you're experts in the repair of motor vehicles. And I think everyone we invite to this upcoming workshop where we talk about barriers and we talk about solutions, not every one of them is going to come in with a technical expertise. In fact, many of them won't. So right offhand, I think that's something that BAR or EAG members, might offer to the conversation, perhaps providing some sort of overview that does dive into what all is involved with a Takata airbag affected vehicle. What's a typical repair look like? What are some of the atypical situations look like? How long does it take? How many visits does it take? And I think that that's something that right offhand, again, I think the folks in this virtual room might be able to offer to the discussion. Among many other things, as Clay discussed, I think there's still a great number of opportunities when it comes to educating the industry, the licensees, and engaging with them and asking them to help champion this. And when you have customers in the shop, when you have students in a classroom, talk about this, because you can't do too much outreach These vehicles, we haven't seen, but a couple dozen deaths is a terrible number, but I don't think it's anything compared to what we'll see as these vehicles continue to age. 10 years from now, that number can be just an awful, awful figure. When these vehicles accrue additional miles, additional corrosion, have changed hands more times, and are more likely to be in an accident, particularly if they're now lower cost vehicles in the hands of newer drivers. And again, that vehicle accident is now akin to a fuse, and those fatalities and serious injuries are only going to increase. So the time is now to act, and I hope I can count you and everyone in this room as a partner. And my contact information hopefully is on here as well. I'll scroll to that as we go ahead and open it up for questions. There is my email address. I also welcome messages there.
We can see it, Tim. Thank you, and thank you for the important work that you do. Moderator, any hands up from the panelists?
This is the moderator. I don't see any hands raised from our panelists.
Okay.
Would you like to move to public comment then?
Yes, please.
All right. One moment. This is the moderator, and I have opened up the Q&A for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And it looks like we have a request from Jean Lopez. Jean, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Welcome back, Jean.
Well, thank you, and Mr. Cochran. This is quite a task you have taken on. While I was listening to you, I was just thinking, and you probably thought of this too, is all these cars have to be registered in the state of California, and what better way than I don't know if we could get the Department of Motor Vehicles involved in saying, hey, this car's on a recall, and you should let the registered owner know that they should take the car in. I know. Well, I don't know that the DMV, stuffs their registration forms with anything other than the request to renew your registration, but that might be one way to do it. And it's got to go to a dealer, although there are many collision repairers who replace these. Maybe an effort could be supported by the California Auto Body Association. Simply by a vehicle comes in, and it happens a lot that we get notified there's a recall on a car via all data or information systems, or any other if we're using scan tools that are OEM devices, that would pop up a recall notice. So maybe we could work that avenue. If we see a car, or a car comes into one of our facilities and we recognize it's on a recall, we could perhaps help the consumer out there. And again, thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Gene. All great comments. And I'm glad you mentioned checking vehicles as they come into your facilities, because there's a great website. It's called Check to Protect, which is managed by the National Safety Council, a coalition of several automakers. It's a great website, makes it really easy to check. You could even scan a license plate with your phone, and it'll return recall results, not just Takata recall, other recalls as well. So it's a really handy application, and it'll make it really easy for you to do so quickly and on the run. Again, even right from your smartphone. So I really appreciate it. And as far as the question on or comment regarding DMV, yeah, they absolutely are a partner, a primary partner in this, and they do work with the National Safety Council, with NHTSA, and have done targeted mailers, and they've and they're continuing to do so. Obviously this has been going on for over a decade. So they've done several mailers, and I don't think that's ever going to stop. But yeah, thank you again, Gene. All really good comments.
And that app again was Check to Correct?
Check to Protect.
Protect. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, thank you again for that question.
Okay. You have the hands up, moderator?
This is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Please.
I'd like to, as you do that, I'd like to go ahead and leave everyone with one additional terrifying thought. For those who read the automotive news or watch other news outlets that focus on automotive industry stories, there's a company called ARC that NHTSA has alleged, that there's potentially 67 million airbag inflators that could potentially rupture. So it sounds awfully familiar. And considering we're not out of the woods yet with the Takata effort, I certainly personally hope that number isn't that high, but it's again just terrifying. So thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Up next, we have Greg Coburn regarding clean truck check presentation. We've checked your deck and it's still intact. If you'd like the moderator to drive.
Yes, the moderator driving would be wonderful. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
All right. Well, I also just wanted to say thanks for inviting the Air Resources Board to come speak today on our new Clean Truck Check program. And it's good to hear all of the BAR, DMV, and others' voices during these presentations. So let's see, let's figure out how to drive here. If I can change slides. Somehow Tim figured this out, how to advance slides, so I should be able to too. Moderator, how do I click through to advance slide?
I just gave you presenter status, so you can either use the arrows up at the top of the page, or you can use the arrows on your keyboard. Yep.
Perfect. All right. All right. So again, my name is Greg Coburn, work for the California Air Resources Board in the Mobile Source Control Division. And this is going to go over the Clean Truck Check program, used to be known as the Heavy Duty Inspection and Maintenance Program, which is smog check for heavy duty vehicles that are not subject to the smog check program. I'm one of the managers working on the program for the last number of years, and want to walk through some of these details with this group. All right, so we're going to do a brief program overview, how we're going to phase in the implementation and some major program components. Basic program overview, again, it's similar to the smog check program, but for heavy duty vehicles. And, those that are regulated are any diesel and alternative fuel vehicles over 14,000 pounds GVWR operating in California. I like to think of it as any non-gasoline vehicle that's over 14,000 is subject. This includes, different from the smog check program, out-of-state vehicles, as well as public vehicles such as federal, state, and local. So anything that's coming in and driving in California is subject to the program. And as Tim said, there are, similar to how they're doing some of their investigation, CARB does have ALPR cameras on most of the entrance points to California at this point, and they are watching the truck traffic come in and out of the state, so they are aware of what's coming in and out, as well as measuring emissions as they go in and out. I'm going to go over in the next slide some of the key dates. So starting up January 1st of 2023, so 11 months ago, we did start looking for high emitting vehicles using RSD technology. CARB has a specific RSD or remote sensing device called PEAKS. You can kind of see it here in the picture. It's kind of that vertical pole there going up over the truck with a piece that comes out and kind of grabs the emissions as the truck drives by. That one is kind of one of the mobile units that gets driven around. A lot of these are on the agricultural stations at the entrance points to California at this point. They're pretty invisible. to the motorists themselves. They're all permanently installed up there at the agricultural check stations where the large trucks drive through those particular bays. There are high emitter notices going out to trucks that far exceed the standards, and those are required to get testing submitted into CARB showing that repairs have been made. There are blocks at DMV, since someone brought that up with the Takata airbag recalls. There are notices that it does hold the DMV registration as well as notices on there. If you are marked as a high emitter, you also receive a letter directly from CARB alerting you to the situation. Starting up by December 31st of 2023, there is reporting. This is another one of the big differences between Smog Check and the Clean Truck Check programs. The fleets actually have to go out and register their vehicles. That did start up on October 1st. It's due to have everybody reported by the end of this year. It's a pretty simple system. Basically go out, you can log in, and you can enter in the VINs of the vehicles, you can bulk upload those vehicles, and then you can pay your certificate fees, and you are in good standing as long as you don't have an outstanding CARB enforcement violation or a high emitter flag on that vehicle. The website for that reporting system is pretty simple, cleantruckcheck@arb.ca.gov. As well, you can just go out to CARB's website and search for Clean Truck Check, and a plethora of information comes up. That link will be provided at the end of this presentation. This program also includes, individual motorhome owners that are heavy-duty diesels. They will also have to go out and report in the system. There is a lot of outreach going on right now from CARB to the various groups about this. Those that do go to truck stops and things, you'll see there's like toppers on top of the diesel fuel dispensers and things like that out there, as well as numerous radio ads, and we're in a lot of publications. If you are a truck driver, you're pretty aware of what's been going on here. So then we move on to periodic testing, moving into more of the smog check space. That all begins in July of 2024. People can test before that. There's kind of a 90-day window. Many folks are already testing to clear those high emitters. Similar to smog check, there are OBD tests. That's kind of what the picture is here, but you see there's a round OBD connector, a little different from smog check on many of those vehicles. But laptop-based programming, there's a couple of different devices out there that you can submit to CARB the OBD test results, as well as there's a continuance of opacity testing that is continuing to go on, and we'll go over that in a little bit. So those will start up coming up here shortly. So major program components. Main goal, as with all I&M programs, is to repair broken vehicles and malfunctioning parts. So one of the big switches here is we have the periodic smoke inspection program, also referred to as PSIP. CARB's been running that program for over 30 years. That requires opacity tests or smoke opacity tests to be done on trucks every year with fleets of 2 or more vehicles. This program expands that, and essentially it puts the applicability to all fleets, including owner operators and those that have large vehicles they're using for personal use as well. So those opacity tests basically remain intact as they always have. There is a submission channel that those testers are aware of to get those tests submitted up as well. So again, the PEAK system stands for Portable Emissions Acquisition System. It's another remote sensing device, a way to find those high emitters that are out there on the road. There is the OBD testing, like we talked about a little bit. There are numerous other testing equipment that have come in, many of them similar to smog check devices that many on this group are aware of. There's continued testing going on there. We're hoping that by the end of this year, we've got a large list of equipment that are available that include telematics devices, as well as standalone scan devices. So obviously the big difference between the periodic smoke inspection program and the smog check program is this program requires testing twice a year. And then in 2027, if everything is going well, it'll actually move to quarterly testing as required by the legislation. So that would be a 4 times per year test. There are numerous enforcement tools being used. Obviously, we are very linked in with DMV at this point. There are messages on there about clean truck check. They're in a separate spot. We don't have the prime real estate like smog check does up at the top, but we do have a spot on the registration renewal notices to indicate that there is a clean truck check test required with CARB's website and information so that folks can figure out what they need to do to get their registration completed. There are, in addition, an interesting piece of this program is freight contractors and facilities that would include ports and rail facilities. Before they allow a truck in, they have to make sure that that vehicle is part of a fleet that is fully compliant with this program and its regulations. So that is a different piece. So there's a lot of information that goes between those facilities and CARB to clear fleets and to clear vehicles that are allowed into those points of access within California. Again, license plate cameras are another piece of those remote sensing or PEAKS devices. So it's capturing the plates, not just for the emissions, but also, again, for compliance for vehicles coming into the state of California. This group will be interested. There are tester training requirements, and we can go over that a little bit. There is training available out on CARB's website. It is free training at this point. It allows you to become a credentialed tester. Goes over, what the inspection is, what OBD is, what vehicles are subject, all of those things. Definitely encourage anyone that's interested to go out and take that. It tells you a lot more information than what we're going to go over here today about the program and how things are going. There's also a separate referee network. It's separate from BAR's referee network. And it does have separate naming conventions and all of those good things. So there are a couple of sites rolled out in California. Those will continue to roll out over the next couple of years. So what else do you need to know about PEAKS? This gives you a little bit closer in picture of the mobile testing equipment that are set up at different times throughout the state of California. There are certain notices that are given out by the enforcement group at CARB that allows them to submit their passing test results within 30 days. Most trucks on the road are OBD capable. We'll go over the model years here in a bit. And you can submit a simple OBD test back up to CARB. You will get a violation from enforcement if the correct actions are not taken on the vehicles. So tester training and examination, again, here's the website that you can go out and take that training from CARB. There are many of our testers, a little different from smog check, that may only work for a fleet. They may not offer outside services. There are many folks that do actually mobile services where they drive out to these large fleets and maybe out there for days or weeks getting through that fleet's testing. On CARB's website, there is a list of the credentialed testers that are available to the public. So we ask for that during the time of testing, whether or not they will do outside testing or if they're just inside testing folks. There are 1,300 current credentialed testers that are involved in the program. Over 300 of those have the OBD testing equipment and are actively doing tests. So again, the test methods that are involved here, OBD vehicles. For this particular program, when you're talking about heavy duty, it's a little different than the light duty sector. We're talking 2013 and newer model year vehicles with diesel engines, including diesel hybrids, are equipped with OBD. 2018 and newer model years are for alternative fuel vehicles, such as CNG or CNG hybrids. Came in a little bit later with full OBD compliance. Non-OBD vehicles will continue to get the smoke test, commonly referred to as the Society of Automotive Engineers, J1667 opacity test. For more information, CARB's website does have a list of the certified smoke meters that can be used in the program. In addition, one of the things that did change with the new Clean Truck Check program is a visual inspection got added to that of the emission control components, similar to what most of you are used to in the smog check program. The OBD test is similar to bars. It's completed in minutes. It's fairly fast. The data is automatically transmitted up to CARB. Pass fail determinations are made automatically by the system, and results are sent back to the tester. The devices used must be verified to meet all the CARB requirements. There's a link to the CARB verified devices that are being added onto as we speak. So again, program's going to start at twice a year in July of 2024 for the actual emissions testing. Increases to quarterly in 2027 timeframe. When the periodic testing begins here in July, the periodic smoke inspection program does discontinue, so that annual testing will not go on beyond that time period. So typical California registered vehicles, similar to smog check, will be based on their registration due dates, and they will be displayed within the CARB system that's available online for registration to tell them when they need to get everything done. For non-California vehicles, same thing. The system will tell them when they need to do things, but it is based on the last digit of the VIN because obviously they are not registered with DMV. That also applies to state and federal vehicles to use the last digit of the VIN since they are registered differently at DMV. So there's kind of the basic metric of, if the last digit of the VIN is 0, then their month for testing will be October, and it'll go so on and so forth. If they do have a really odd VIN on some type of crane or something like that that happens to not end in a digit, which shouldn't happen, then they will be due in August. Some basic resources to get you all started. All of these can be found pretty easily, again, by going out to CARB's website, which is arb.ca.gov. In the search bar, if you just type in Clean Truck Check, it will get you to everything you need to know. But here are the links as well that get you directly to the pieces you may be the most interested in. I would encourage you, if you do have questions, to email this email address, hdim@arb.ca.gov. That email is manned by dozens of people at CARB. They will route questions that they cannot answer over to me. If you really need to get a hold of me, my email address is greg.coburn@arb.ca.gov. But that email is much faster than I am for sure for getting answers about the program or any specifics that may be needed. And again, you can just take my name and put arb.ca.gov at the end of it if you do need to get a hold of me, but strongly encourage you to use that HDINM email. All right, I can open it up to questions at this point.
Thank you, Greg. Quite the project you have there. Moderator, hands up from the panel members.
This is the moderator. I don't see any hands raised from our panel members.
Okay.
Would you like me to open up for public comment at this point?
Yes, please.
All right. In that case, members of the public, if you would like, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. You can either click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And it looks like we do have a request from Jonathan Summers. And Jonathan, you'll be given, I will request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Great, thank you for a wonderful presentation and for the thoroughness of it. The question I have, I'm not sure if you can answer, or somebody on the panel can answer. This smog inspection, can it be performed at a test-only facility? Smog check test-only facility?
The basic answer to that is no. It could be, Jonathan. It's not that it's prohibitive of a smog check station participating, but it is not directly tied in with the smog check licensure or any particular type of station. So although some may offer it as a completely separate service from their licensure, at this time there's no way to look it up on BAR's website or any tie into the smog check program.
All right, so then the second part of that question, again, from the panel, understanding that a smog check station is a test only, if one of our stations decide to start offering this, is there any laws that says, no, we cannot perform smog on heavy duty diesels?
I'm going to hand that back over to the Bureau of Automotive Repair for answering.
I'm not aware of any.
All right, fantastic. That answers my question. Thank you.
Which doesn't mean they don't exist. I'm just not aware of any.
You got it. All right, I'll take that with a grain of salt.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right, this is the moderator. Our next person who has requested public comment, Gilberto Rios. And Gilberto, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Afternoon all. My question is, as far as like the referee network, what exactly does that entail? And is there a possibility of like, I guess the civilian sector becoming a referee?
There is. They do have job postings and things within. It is obviously subbed out. The UC Riverside has the contract for the referee. They are operating at multiple colleges and junior colleges at this point. They do have what they call remote referees, meaning that you basically have the equipment and they're working with you as the inspections are done. There's obviously not a large demand for referee at this early in the program since testing has not been fully implemented. But definitely that is an option to get signed up and be a part of that network.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Gilberto.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Up next, we have Kayla Shelton with
Marty. I do have one quick comment I wanted to
go
make.
ahead.
I'm sorry you missed me along the way here. Is it
I
possible
apologize.
to say something? Okay. Real quick, Greg, I haven't seen you for a while, so it's good to hear your smiley voice for a change. That was good. I do have a question, and I'm saying this from a bias of what the group is. And the group is the Educational Advisory Group. And I'm wondering, what's the people situation like? Are you guys having problems with getting people staffed up to be able to do these services for you guys? And if so, is there some method or pathway to try to get people on board that can help provide this service as you're starting to launch? I'm just kind of curious about that perspective. Thank you.
But if you didn't ask a question, I was going to be disappointed. So thank you for asking. I think you're asking in particular about the referee services. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I'm talking about it in terms of this program for the heavy duty vehicles. And there was a question, I can't remember who it was, that was saying, hey, can regular shops participate and do this? And I don't think that there's a barrier to entry, but I'm also wondering if there are not very many shops that would participate in this, which means you have to be over on the other side then trying to figure out how can I have a targeted program towards making sure that the Clean Truck Check program is successful. And it probably takes the ability to have both locations and equipment, but people. And it takes all that stuff. So I'm just kind of curious on the people side whether or not there's a pipeline of people that are coming along that can help do this work.
Yes, yeah, it is a different industry for sure, but it's been interesting to go out to numerous of these facilities that do heavy duty repairs that are really excited to participate in the program, that are participating in the program. We actually sometimes go out and do workshops just at some of these giant shops because they have that many employees there doing the testing, doing the repairs. And they invite local shops in, and we do hands-on training. In addition, we've held a ton of workshops, obviously. The numbers they sound so much lower than smog check, but when you look at proportionally wise, even with 1,300 folks out there being credentialed testers, you're actually right in about the realm you are with smog check when you do it per vehicle. So in California, there's about 500,000 heavy duty vehicles. So, I think when folks look at smog check, it's like that is a minuscule program. And then in addition, the hard part, the really hard part is you've got out of state trucks coming in. And so we've also got a number of credentialed testers that are out of state. And when I say credentialed, it's a very different environment than where BAR operates, right? CARB is not a licensing board like DCA. So these are not licensed folks. They do not have licenses. They are basically approved to do testing because they've taken the training. So it's a very different way of going about it. But as far as getting folks up and going, we're definitely in the infancy. We definitely want to continue to get the word out there and get the right participants. Some of these testers, this is all they do. They go out to fleets and they test all day long. So we feel like it sounds like low coverage, but actually it's pretty decent coverage at this point. All of that periodic smoke inspection program that's been going on for a long time with the annual testing, all of those testers have obviously already participated and signed up, and looking forward to some of the changes and the more frequent testing that is going on. I know many light duty shops are probably not going to want to see a long haul truck with a load coming into their station and not be able to back out of the parking lot. But some of those in more ideal conditions or do work on heavy duty vehicles, yes, we would really encourage them to be coming in the program and considering and looking at how this would play into their business models and work well for them.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, moderator, for your help. Appreciate it.
Yeah, real quick, thanks for the question, Bud. I just kind of wanted to follow up too and make sure I understand. And that question is really the heart of why we wanted to bring Greg in to kind of give this presentation, is kind of looking forward at some of the opportunities that it may present, folks in the industry. But basically the short is to become a CARB approved tester, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong. You just have to go to the CARB website and complete the training, at which point you're basically authorized to perform these inspections on the heavy duty trucks, right?
You are correct, Clay.
Okay. That was it for me. Thanks again, Greg. I really appreciate you coming down to give an update. This is a really important program. I know it's not a lot of vehicles, but in terms of air quality impact, obviously, this population of vehicles has a huge impact. And this program is a real great step towards cleaning a lot of that up and getting some of these vehicles repaired. So thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thanks for the invite.
Agreed. Moderator, any more hands up?
This is a moderator. I'm not seeing any further hands.
Okay. And now we have Kayla Shelton up with an update on legislation and regulations. Go ahead, Kayla.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is really just a regurgitation of the presentation that we gave at the Board Advisory Group meeting. So the first thing we'll discuss are all the 2023 legislative bills that BAR was tracking that have been signed by the governor. We're going to start off with AB 641. Like I said, it was approved by the governor and filed with the Secretary of State on October 8th of this year. It revises the definition of an automobile dismantler to include a person who maintains 2 or more unregistered vehicles no longer legal for use on the highway and maintains or possesses 9 used catalytic converters. This definition and legislative bill does not apply to vehicles or catalytic converters used for restoration or replacement parts. Next, we do have AB 1263. This was the big one. This was our sunset bill. It was approved by the governor and filed with the Secretary of State on the 10th of October. Foremost, this bill does extend bar sunset date another 4 years to January 1st, 2028. It also expands the definition of an automotive repair dealer to include any businesses collecting compensation for repairs that are referred or sublet services. Additionally, it grants bar authority to establish storage fee regulations. We are starting that reg text, and we do plan to have a workshop on this subject at the January Board Advisory Group meeting. This bill also grants bar authority to establish a centralized inspection network to test 1995 and older vehicles requiring a bar 97 test. Any necessary regulations are yet to be determined. Continuing on with AB 1263, the bill does state that no earlier than January 1st of 2025, it requires the testing of OBD systems only on 1996 to 1999 vehicles, which means no more bar 97s for these vehicles, but this is currently being done on 2000 and newer vehicles. Also, regulations on this piece of the legislation have yet to be determined. Additionally, legislature does intend for the board advisory group to continue to meet and advise on any regulatory issues and industry-related programs. The bill also allows BAR the option to require the employee of an automotive repair dealer involved in a violation resulting in a citation to also attend remedial training to prevent the disclosure of that citation. Any regulation updates to the current citation and remedial training program are also yet to be determined. As you can see, these bills were just approved by the governor, so we are in the beginning stages of any pending regulations that are a result of the legislative movement. Continuing on with AB 1263, the bill expands the term of a qualified smog check technician to include both repair technicians and smog check inspectors. Both repair technicians and smog check inspectors have a definition currently in regulations. The bill will expand fraudulent inspections to include clean plugging, clean gassing, clean tanking, or any other fraudulent inspection practices. All of those terms, clean plugging, clean gassing, those are all already defined in existing regulations. AB 1263 also updates the Business and Professions Code and the Vehicle Code to transition the brake and lamp program into the Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Program, as we kind of previously alluded to in a prior presentation. Regulations for the movement from the brake and lamp program into the Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Program are in the process, and we will further discuss that later on in the presentation. AB 1263 also requires a Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection certificate to be provided at the time of the sale of a salvaged title. So as you can tell, that was a pretty big bill, lots of cleanup done, lots of hard work from many parties to get AB 1263 approved by the governor. But moving on, we have AB 1519. It was approved by the governor and filed with the Secretary of State on October 13th. This bill prohibits removing or altering the VINs that are on the CAT converters, or possessing 3 or more catalytic converters that also have been altered. And we have SB 55. It was approved by the governor and filed with the Secretary of State on October 13th. This bill prohibits the sale of new and used vehicles with catalytic converters unless that catalytic converter has been engraved and etched with the VIN number of the vehicle. Until January 1st of 2025, this bill will not apply to a vehicle purchased from a dealer licensed in California who is also licensed in another state and does not have a warranty service facility in California. It will also not apply to collector cars or motorcycles. Okay, lastly, we have SB 544. This was approved by the governor and filed with the Secretary of State on September 22nd. This bill will allow for the continuation of virtual meetings as long as there is a physical location available for those who want to attend in person. It does require that all the meeting information be posted on the meeting notice. And it does also allow for advisory group members to attend virtually. Moving on from legislation to current regulations that BAR has been working on, we're going to discuss the regulations that were adopted in 2023. One of them being the Automotive Repair Dealer Registration Application Requirements. Those were adopted on May 1st and effective on July 1st. Also, the citation and remedial training programs for ARDs was adopted on May 31st, also effective on July 1st. So now we'll discuss any pending regulation packages. We have the Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Program. We have the ARD Registration Renewal Requirements Package. We have the Smog Check Inspection Equipment and Station Requirements Package, also known as the DAD Specification Update. And we also have a CAP incentive increase. So first we'll discuss the Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Program. So the regulation package, like I said, will move the brake and lamp program into a Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Program. It will establish the procedures and program requirements in a Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection Manual. It will also create the license requirements for Vehicle Safety Systems inspection and repair stations and technicians. And it will also set the current brake and lamp inspection program to sunset 6 months after the adoption of regulation. We have held multiple public workshops beginning in 2022 all the way through this year. This package was actually posted for 45-day comment period today. That 45-day comment period will end on December 26th. The next step in this process would be to take the comments and make any necessary changes, after which it would go back to DCA and agency for final review prior to being submitted to OIL. So we also have the ARD registration renewal requirements. This was kind of a tack-on regulation package related to the ARD application requirements. This little package will require any ARDs renewing their registration to use forms that will collect the newly required information pursuant to AB 471. So part of AB 471 is the collection of some additional information. So what we're doing here is we're requiring any ARDs renewing their registration to use forms that will allow us to collect all of that missing information. The package does also specify that the ARD registration expires 1 year from the last day of the month unless all of this information is provided. This package is actually with OAL for final approval and adoption, as it was approved by agency. All right, so moving on, we have the DAD specification package. The purpose of this package is to replace the current OBD DAD specification with a more comprehensive and updated version to provide additional tools to combat smog check fraud. It will also allow the DAD to communicate with new vehicles that use a communication protocol not supported by the current generation of BAR certified DADs. We do have an update. So this package was submitted to agency as of October 27th. The next step of this process would be to post this package for a public commenting period. And lastly, we have the Consumer Assistance Program Incentive Increase package. The package will increase vehicle retirement program incentives for income eligible motorists from $1,500 to $2,000. It will increase vehicle retirement program incentive for other motorists from $1,000 to $1,350. It will allow the Bureau to increase vehicle retirement incentives and repair assistance contributions once every 3 years if there has been a 10% increase in the related series of Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index. It will also remove the eligibility restriction preventing motorists from participating more than once in the repair assistance program. And lastly, it will unincorporate the CAP application and list the application requirements and regulation. Essentially, we're unincorporating a form and we're putting all the form requirements into the regulations themselves. We do also have an update for this package. It was submitted to the director on November 3rd, which means the next step would be to submit the package to agency for initial review. And that is the contact information for Holly or myself if we have any follow-up questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kayla. Moving parts there. Moderator, any questions from the panelists?
This is a moderator. Looks like we have a hand raised from Phil Fournier.
Welcome to the group, Phil, today. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'm sorry for late arrival. About the change to roll back the BAR 97 program to vehicles older than 1996. I believe that was in the beginning of the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct about that?
Yes.
Yes.
Has there been any complementary provisions? And I'll go right to the point. There are many BAR 97 operators that are star stations that are struggling to justify the cost of maintaining their unit. That, coupled with bad service on the part of Worldwide in particular, that is making it really hard for them to keep that machine. I would suggest that rolling this back further is going to further complicate that particular situation. It's not really a question, it's just a comment on that should be taken into consideration, that something needs to be done to mitigate if we want to maintain these machines for cars older than 96, that's very hard to be justified. I'm not sure what to suggest as far as a solution, but it's a scary scenario.
I'll jump in on that one. I appreciate that comment. This is Clay Leak. Yeah, I agree. We appreciate that comment and agree wholeheartedly. And those are conversations that we will start to have around, what is the trigger for that centralized inspection network that we were given authority to implement as part of Assembly Bill 1263. But certainly, metrics like the cost of a bar 97 inspection to a consumer, or also, the availability and reliability of that test platform, right? We are aware of some of the issues that shops are having. So agree 100%, and lots more conversation around that topic and kind of how best to balance that looking ahead as that population of vehicles shrink and that equipment continues to age.
Thank you, Clay.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. That's all I needed to know.
All right. Moderator, any more hands up from our panelists?
This is the moderator. I don't see any further hands from our panelists. Would you like to move to public comment?
Yes, please.
Okay, one moment. All right. And for our members of the public, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, you can either click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And it looks like we have a couple requests with raised hands, so I'll go in the order received. First,
Okay.
I have Jonathan Summers. Jonathan, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the Unmute Me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Thank you, Kayla, for the wonderful update. That's a lot of information. You covered it very, very well. One question I have is when the OIS was updated last Monday, it included an icon to do the vehicle inspection. Will test onlys be able to participate in that inspection program as well?
Kayla, let me go ahead and grab that one. The answer is that, so the new icon that showed up, which I was going to cover in my presentation, but since you're bringing it up, we'll just do it now. There was a release to the analyzers under 23.2, and now your main menu screen, which had a row of 4 tiles, 2 rows of 4 tiles, now has 3 rows of 3, and includes an icon for a VSS or Vehicle Safety Systems Inspection. That tile is actually grayed out because we haven't started performing inspections yet. The program hasn't even taken effect yet as far as the regulations. But to answer your question about test onlys will not be able to do vehicle safety systems inspections, just like they can't do lamp and brake inspections at this moment. So if you are a test only and you want to do vehicle safety systems inspections, you can become a test and repair station.
Great. The other question I had is with regards to the new verbiage as a qualified small technician, one that's licensed in both. How would that affect or will that affect that individual star score now that he is recognized or she is recognized as a certified or qualified small check technician? Does that increase does that bring them up on the ladder as a more qualified tech? Any input on that?
Do you guys want me to take that one?
Let's go ahead.
Okay, so essentially all that particular line of AB 1263 is doing is there are mentions and references to a qualified smog check technician within provisions relating to the smog check program. And all AB 1263 is doing is making it clear that when you reference a qualified smog check technician, it's referring to both the smog check repair technician as well as a smog check inspector. We're not changing the metrics of how those are rated at all.
So yeah, in short, no change to STAR because of that language.
Yep. There we go.
And my last question, the citation and remedial training as a smog check school for the last 20 years, will we be offering that, or is that something that is freely for anybody to offer? How is that going to roll out? Can anybody comment on that?
Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, you want to take that one, Matt?
Yeah, I got it. So the remedial training is available. Well, I'll say this. First off, you have to be in order to be a remedial training provider, you have to be an attorney. So starting from there, if you're an attorney, then you can apply to be a remedial training provider. But part of the application process is providing us with your remedial training course and making sure that it meets the requirements of the requirements in the regulation for the remedial training class. So keep in mind the remedial training is for ARD citations and not for smog check citations. So they're not directly related to smog check. As a matter of fact, they're not related at all. We don't do remedial training for smog check citations, but those would be the requirements, is that you have to have a bar license, but not our bar.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Moderator, who's up next?
Right, this is the moderator. Next we have Christina Kubrin. And Christina, please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Have to find you again since you lowered your hand. There we go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys letting me talk. This is Christina Kubran, 352 Innovation. I wanted to make a quick comment in regards to the upcoming safety and potential issues with used EVs and the fuel cells and the batteries, and most notably an article that came out October 2021 on battery fraud, and it was actually written in Canada. And it talked about this gentleman owned a business in Canada where he refurbished used EVs, and a shop in Oregon, that's where it was narrowed down to, was taking specifically the newer generation, higher capacity battery and swapping it out with the older junk ones and then taking it off to auction. And so unbeknownst to the consumer, they would receive these bad batteries. But the thing that was scary was he was quoted as saying he personally witnessed a Tesla come out of auction with sandbags where modules should have been in the battery. So fraud is one thing, but this is a profound safety risk because they would wipe the software. And so now if you do not have accurate feedback into your control system, it's not going to be able to adequately maintain temperature and monitor the battery, and that is a profound safety hazard. Now, the good news is the manufacturers are trying to stay on top of that by integrating, checks and balances when you swap batteries and do work like that. But this fraud window is opened up for nefarious people, and so when it comes to the used EV market and whatnot, I think this is something that we may want to look into as far as training shops and training technicians to look at, identify potential fraud, and then plus, the cybersecurity risk in terms of identifying compromised vehicles and how to mitigate that and how to mitigate those risks when they're doing work on the vehicle. And, if a vehicle comes in that is compromised by cybersecurity, and how to prevent that from compromising other tools, and other equipment and other shops in the vehicle, because all it takes is, one connection of the software system. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and hopefully we can begin to address that and mitigate that risk. Thank you so much.
Both interesting and scary. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the question. And maybe we should have a conversation offline, because this is something I could talk for hours and hours on. But yeah, traditionally, when you look at a vehicle from a mechanical perspective, even that, a repair can be a complicated procedure. But when you look at all the technology that's integrated into vehicles today, advanced driver assist systems, electric vehicle technology, and the security component that you touched on, which is a whole nother piece of the pie. And then other, intelligent transportations and communication with infrastructure, right? As a vehicle drives down the road, it gets even more complicated, and obviously creates some real regulatory hurdles, to put it gently. But you know, the safety system inspection program was designed to be, I don't want to say simple, but it was designed in a way that we could get it off the ground without raising the bar, right? Without creating huge upfront investments for these stations. But what it does allow us to do is grow the program over time through regulation. So I think that's something that we'll continue to look at once we get it off the ground and running. Obviously, it is limited to just salvage title vehicles at this point, so it is a smaller population of vehicles. But those are all things that we are interested in integrating into the program. But all those things are very complex and big lifts. But not that they can't be done. So yeah, looking forward to a lot more conversation around some of those topics as we look to continue to grow and improve this program over time. And luckily, the authors really had some foresight to give us some flexibility looking ahead as we look to integrate some of those technologies and take on some of those challenges. So thank you. Great question or comment.
I agree, Clay. Christina has brought a lot to the table today. I planned on tracking her down, so we'll definitely do that. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. And Clay, we'll keep rolling with you. You're up next.
Could I go ahead and moderator? Could you give me, there we go. Thank you so much. And could you promote me so I can move slide? There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. I think this is our last presentation. So I will get on with it. You know, just having some conversations with different folks at BAR and having some conversations with some different folks at BAG. I really wanted to take a step back and kind of look at what we're doing from an advisory group perspective. Obviously, we have this group, the Educational Advisory Group. We also have a Bureau Advisory Group. And I guess at the end of the day, I want to make sure that we as a group are doing things as efficiently and doing things the best way we possibly can. So that said, I will dive in. A little bit of background on both EAG and BAG. BAR established the EAG in 1997. Specifically to discuss and advise the Bureau on smog check inspector and smog check repair technician training requirements. Obviously, the industry's evolved a ton since 1997. A lot of other changes have occurred as well. With regard to BAG, established in 2001 to increase the level of communication between the Bureau, automotive repair industry, education providers, and consumers. Both BAG and EAG are announced on the Bureau's website. We are held to Bagley Keen for both of these meetings, which introduces a lot of rigor and a lot of overhead and oversight, which is a good thing in terms of keeping the public aware and making sure we get materials out. And I guess the last point I'll make here is I think obtaining feedback with regard to education and training issues to me is probably more important now than it's ever been, right? And for some of the reasons we literally just talked about, right? The automotive technology is evolving really quickly. Some of these technologies that are being integrated into vehicles, this is happening really fast. And it is frightening. It is scary when you look at the safety impacts. You look at preparing, the automotive repair industry to look at EVs and connected vehicles and intelligent transportation infrastructure and all these things that are coming at us really fast. So today's landscape, I had a lot of fun with this slide. Obviously, well, not obviously, as part of 1263, there was some legislative intent included that has codified the Bureau Advisory Group in the Business and Profession Code, section 9880.4, aka the John Gallo section, as it will forever be known. And I wanted to quickly go through that language. I think it's important. The legislature finds and declares all of the following. The Bureau of Automotive Repair established the BAR Advisory Group to increase the level of communication between the Bureau, automotive repair industry, education providers, consumers, and other stakeholders. This advisory group meets quarterly to provide input to the chief of the Bureau and other state regulatory programs. So I just wanted to, specifically point out this language and this forum does include education providers. So I also wanted to talk briefly. We do have quite a bit of overlap between the BAG and the EAG right now. What I've noticed recently, we have a lot of presentations that we are actually providing at both the BAG and the EAG. Another kind of shift, and I could be off here, but I really feel like a lot of the educational topics and training topics aren't necessarily specific to smog check. And I think a lot of these really are more and more appearing to be of broader interest to the entire industry, not just smog. So path forward. Maintain the status quo is certainly one option. We can continue to conduct BAG meetings quarterly, and we could continue to conduct EAGs biannually. Another option would be to kind of expand the scope of EAG outside of just smog check training and education issues. And the last bullet, which you may have figured I'm kind of pushing us towards or may talk a little bit more about, would be combining the BAG and the EAG into one formal advisory group. So again, I know certainly no decisions have been made, but I really felt like it was the right time to just pose this fundamental question to both this group and to the BAG, which is, can we do this better? You know, given the frequency of the BAG, given the fact that it does formally include now legislative intent that includes education providers, might we be better served having one larger advisory group meeting and rolling the EAG into that? So really interested to hear feedback from the industry. Again, no decisions have been made. I really would never make a decision like this without engaging the industry, without engaging all of our stakeholders and having a dialogue. So interested to hear what folks think, if this might provide some efficiencies and potentially position us to do things better, to do things more efficiently, to disseminate information more regularly on educational topics. This would obviously include, a shift like this if we were to move EAG into BAG, a really concrete effort to make sure that those training and educational topics bubbled up and were included, which I have total confidence that we could do that if that's the direction we want to head. So that said, I will turn it over for some discussion and we'll take notes.
I'll go first. Clay, totally agree with you. If nothing else, today's discussions and presentations illustrate what broad topics these are and need to be taken out of their little EAG compartment and made more widespread. That's what I have to say.
Well,
So,
I
moderator,
appreciate that. I'm a lot more interested in what the industry has to say, though.
I'm certain that you are. We'll get them up next.
Right, this is the moderator. I see a hand raised from Bud Rice.
Hey, so from my perspective, I do agree, and I attend both sessions, and there are some overlaps in terms of some presentations that I saw 2 weeks ago or whatever. We're having it again today. My concern is that education is such a critical component of the growth and the of industry, and to be able to make sure that that's being accommodated correctly. My concern is that it gets lost in the shuffle, and then all of a sudden the things that were geared towards specific educational concerns gets less and less as other hot topics of the day override the other thing, and even when we're arguing about career technical education, and then the state comes out and says, well, we just put $40 million into that. Well, when you really take a look at where the money goes, music and medical get most of the money. And so we're at the back end trying to figure out how we can get money for training classes and for usage for industry. So I think there may be a way to do some of the things, and I'm not arguing with you, Clay. I think that there is some overlap. I would just hate to see education end up taking a back seat and then get pushed further and further back based on whatever the hot topic of the day is. I'm just concerned about that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the concern. And I guess the way I think about this is I agree that the educational topics are vitally important to both industry and to bar. And in a way, I think that bringing those forward to BAG may allow us to address them more effectively and more efficiently than the way we're doing things now. So in no way am I suggesting that these topics are not important or shouldn't be addressed. In fact, I'm proposing the opposite. I think they are vitally critical, and I think we could do a better job addressing them as part of BAG than we do currently. And again, not that's my perspective. Certainly open to different thoughts on that, but I agree with you 100%.
Moderator, any more hands up?
This is a moderator. Looks like we have a couple more. It looks like Tess first had her hand raised.
Go ahead, Tess.
Hi guys, I know I'm a newer member, so I caution in providing too much feedback, not having as much experience in the group. But I did want to add in that from what I could see from the presentation that I made at the BAG meeting last, the interest from industry was overwhelmingly, it just was so apparent, and we spent quite a bit of time on Q&A. I know that ties directly back to demand and the shortage of technicians, and so anytime we can look at efficiencies, I'm certainly a fan, but probably I definitely don't have as much experience as the rest of the group, being a newer member here. But I wanted to add in that anytime we could add more of the educational component to BAG, I would support that.
Okay, thank you for the feedback.
All right. Next we have Phil Fournier.
Thank you. I have 2 points. First, my concern would be that having the committees be combined might make the platform too broad to cover both topics in one session. That would be a concern of mine. The second is, you said there's 4 on this committee that are also on the BAG committee. I'd like to hear from them, if possible, what they feel like, because they've got a better feel for what actually happens at the BAG meeting than those of us that have been on this committee for some years. So if one of them would speak up, if they're present on this round, I'd like to hear what they think about, specifically about my concern of having such a broad range of topics. It would leave some stuff uncovered.
Yeah, I think we just heard from a couple of them. Tess Dubois is on both, and as is Bud. I believe Ruben Parra is our other participant that does both.
Yes, I guess I'm up. Hi, Phil. I'm one of those that are on both, and good to hear you, Phil. Haven't seen you for a while. So I think that there is room for both committees to live separately, kind of like a separate but equal kind of thing. Because I also feel that the education part of it, we haven't been. I don't think that we've been working hard enough, or specifically addressing some of the resources that maybe schools in the state of California can have, or how to take advantage of it, or bring in that information to other educators throughout the state, and getting the resources, because the schools are what's going to provide the technicians for industry, and I see. And I also feel that the industry part of it, or more like the industry part of it in the BAG meetings, can also stand alone. So I'm kind of with Bud and with Phil, and that we should, both of the advisories can survive separately. Just, I think that education, this specific platform, I think could probably need a little bit, could use a little bit more of a role in helping and advising educators with different resources, and reaching out to schools, and making them aware, if they're not aware, of possible everything from trainings to funds, and things of that nature, and promoting. I'm a big proponent of advisory committees. Every time somebody tells me, or somebody complains about the education industry, I always say, well, which advisory or which college are you an advisory member for? And it's usually they are not. So that's the other thing that we should promote. And that's what I got. Thanks.
Thanks, Ruben.
right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests from the panelists. Would you like me to open it up for public comment?
Sure, that'd be great.
All right. So this is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. It looks like we have a couple requests. So first I have Jonathan Summers, and I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Thank you, Clay, for bringing that to the table. That's a very important topic. Listening to the comments that are being made and about the two, the members of the BAG committee have wisdom and knowledge that they can enhance the education committee. But with that being said, we do have 4 members already that's from the BAG committee on the education committee. So as long as I agree with keeping it separate, when the important topics that BAG talk about can be brought over to the educational side as well. The other comment that I would like to add real quick is I would love to see a more diverse group of members on the educational committee. When I use the word diverse, I'm meaning people from the dealership industry, a member from the private educational industry, as well as individuals from the community colleges and bar as well. So if we could toss that on the table, making it a more diverse educational committee instead of a more heavy community college committee, that would be greatly appreciated. That's my comment.
Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We'll move on to our next individual, Jean Lopez. And Jean, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Clay, thanks for bringing this up. And I think you have a valid point in merging the two groups. But I don't necessarily agree from the standpoint that education and those panelists kind of drive a different, how do I put it? Well, it's just, it's a different environment. And that might not be the right word, but I think the Bureau Advisory Group focuses more on the consumer. And perhaps I'm thinking the Education Advisory Group is more focused on the students or potential students and technicians. And that's why I would say to keep them separate. And I'd also say this, I think meeting biannually is potentially not enough. There's a big gap there. And I don't know if there's any meetings in between every 6 months, but I would think that at best, maybe a third meeting or perhaps even meeting quarterly would give this this group a stronger advantage of getting things accomplished. So thanks for taking my comments.
Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We'll move on to our next individual, Jack Mullendorf. And Jack, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
I'm a member of the BAG committee meeting, and just listening to the comments here. First thing is that there is a lot of overlap here with the content, very similar presentations. With the members, we talked about 4 members having on both the educational committee as well as the BAG committee meeting, and the participants. I bet if you looked at the participants, they're probably pretty close to the same participants in the BAG meeting. The So as I'm thinking about this, I heard some of the concerns about education, and that is important. In fact, in the legislation in 1263, that was spelled out. Education providers is in there, and I think we can push, or at least have the BAR make sure that at the BAG meeting they set aside some time for an educational topic to make sure it's not just brushed under the rug or put aside. If you end up combining both, I think it can be done. The BAG meets on a quarterly basis. In fact, I've attended, or at least I've listened to the educational committees over the years, and I think at one time they were meeting once a year. They weren't meeting very often. Um, I think you're going to get more at the educational committee. You're going to get the participation, especially if you set aside some of the issues we talked about, education, and make sure it is addressed on each agenda. So those are my comments. As I listened, I didn't have strong feeling one way or another, but as I'm listening to this and kind of weighing the scales here, to me it appears, or at least my feeling now, just listening, it make much more sense to combine the two committees. But anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't have a. I think I have a preference, but I don't have a really strong opinion either. So I really appreciate all the input, and certainly, a lot of folks that are attending this meeting have a lot more history. So I really appreciate all the feedback from everybody. Thank you. Do we have any more out there, moderator?
This is the moderator. Looks like Jean Lopez has requested to speak again. So Jean, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, it's good to see you on the call, or good to hear you on the call. And you might have an idea there, and perhaps you could go hybrid instead of increasing the number of times the education group meets. Perhaps a couple of the hybrid BAG meetings could include folks from the education group, and that might just work. I think that's a great idea, and perhaps meeting the education group meeting separately twice a year, but then have a couple of hybrid meetings where it's a EAG and a BAG meeting that would combine their efforts. That might work. That would work, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. All right, Janelle Clintus is up next with Scholarship Opportunities presentation. Go ahead, Janelle.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Janelle Colindis from BAR Hardware Certification and Schools Unit. And I don't have a presentation, just this is more for our panel and our attendees to gather some information. We wanted to know, as far as scholarships go for technical, smog, repair, anything related to our industry, if there's any resources out there that are available for scholarships that you'd like to chime in on and share. And we also wanted to talk about what is the best way of advertising and getting the word out so that students can apply for these scholarships and get word out to the industry.
All right, moderator, any comments from the panelists?
This is the moderator. I am not seeing any raised hands from our panelists. Would you like me to open up for public comment?
Yes, please.
Sure. All right. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. It looks like we have a request from Jean Lopez. Jean, I'll request to unmute your microphone now. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Yeah, that's a great idea. as it relates to collision repair, and I don't know how many schools that are actively taking these cars are offering collision repair curriculum, but the Collision Repair Education Foundation offers grants and scholarships to the tune of like $10,000 per school, $1,000 per student. So yeah, the Collision Repair Education Foundation, which is related to the inter-industry conference on auto collision repair, or I-CAR, ICAR. Yeah, there's scholarships available there for sure.
All right, thank you, Gene.
All right, this is a moderator. I don't have any other hands from the public, but I do see a hand raised from Ruben Para.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't get my hand raised fast enough the first time, but if you there are some scholarship available information on the California Automotive Teachers website. You do not have to be a member to gain access to the website. It's simply californiaautomotiveteachers.com. And if you go on there, anybody can go on there and take advantage of some of the scholarships that are posted by different different agencies and such. And if anybody wants to post scholarships, they can do that. They can contact the webmaster, and they can do that as well. There's also resources to trainings and things, but scholarships specifically, there are available scholarships on that website. So feel free.
Thank you, Ruben. And members from my team do attend the CAT conferences, so we are a presence there as well.
Yes, thank you very much.
Moderator, any more hands up?
This is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests for comment.
Okay. Next up is Matthew Gibson regarding vehicle safety systems update, rollout, and transition. Lots there. He's touched on some of it already. Go ahead, Matthew.
Thank you, Mark. Moderator, I think I'll just have you move my slides if that's okay.
Is this the correct one, or?
That is the right one?
Yes, it is.
I mean, the other one starts the same way, so I can understand why there'd be confusion. The next one is also about safety systems. But anyway, all right. So I'm here to give an update on the Vehicle Safety System Inspection Program. Just brief review that the Vehicle Safety System Inspection Program was created by Assembly Bill 471, which was signed into law by Governor Newsom on September 28th of 2021. It creates a vehicle safety system inspection and certification program no sooner than January 1st of 2024. It combines the lamp and brake inspection program into one program, allows BAR to add other vehicle safety systems for inspection, and it moves BAR from a paper to an electronic certificate of compliance for these inspections. So on the status of the proposed regulations, Kayla kind of already covered that. I will point out that we have had 3 public workshops, but in addition to that, I've given numerous presentations on the creation of the Vehicle Safety System Inspection Program, trying to get as much feedback and buy-in from the industry and support and making sure that this program rolls out successfully. Our last workshop actually was on April 27th of this year. And my update on where the regulations are at is not accurate anymore. Kayla had mentioned that these regs are now, they're with OAL. The actual start of the 45-day comment period is tomorrow, although we posted them today because of the federal holiday. So on the implementation, status of the implementation related to the BAR safety inspection system, Encore is creating the BAR SIS, which is to be added to BAR's database, or otherwise known as CalViz. And BAR SIS software is being deployed on existing BAR OS analyzers in 3 updates throughout 2023. The first update was which we call 23.1, covered BAR OS and BAR SIS shared functionality. That was deployed in June. The second release, which we were just talking about, 23.2, which covered the vehicle safety system inspection process, was deployed, actually Monday. And the third release, which is called 23.3, is going to cover the remaining implementation items and is currently in user acceptance testing, and it's projected to be deployed in mid-December. Can I get the next slide? So let's see, where's my slide? There we go. Vehicle safety system. Okay, so stations are required. So the required equipment, vehicle safety inspection systems are required to have what is commonly now known as BAR OIS, which can change name to CalViz itself in the future. But the only other equipment they're required to have other than the BAR OIS and the BAR SIS would be the equipment requirements that are now required for lamp and brake adjusting stations. Vehicle safety system technician licensees must possess an ASE certification in suspension and steering, brakes, electrical, electronic systems. They must have passed an initial licensing examination. And unlike the current lamp and brake adjuster licenses that are valid for 4 years and require the licensee to retake the licensing exam to renew their license, the vehicle safety system system technician license will be valid for 2 years and will not require re-examination for renewal. So a smog check test and repair station that is also a lamp and brake station should already have all the required equipment for the new program. Existing lamp and brake stations that are not smog check stations will have to purchase what we call BAR OIS analyzer. And test only stations, and I just covered this a minute ago, test only stations cannot be vehicle safety system stations, since legislation requires safety system stations to be able to perform repairs of safety systems. Can you get the next slide? So for existing lamp and brake stations and adjusters, a currently licensed lamp and brake adjusting station with licenses in good standing are going to be allowed to forego the application fee to become a licensed vehicle safety system inspection station. A currently licensed lamp and brake adjuster with licenses in good standing are going to be allowed to forego the application fee. The ASC certifications, the A4 and A5 and A6, however, those will be required on the renewal, and they'll be allowed to forego the initial licensing examination. So what we're calling that is that we've developed a specialized licensing process for people, for stations and for adjusters who have both their lamp and brake licenses. But in order to take advantage of the specialized licensing process, the applicants must, well, like I said, they must have both the lamp and brake license. Those licenses must be valid on the effective date of the Vehicle Safety System Inspection Program regulations. They cannot be on probation, and they cannot be subject to pending disciplinary action. An earlier version of the regulation text included a requirement that the applicants have both the lamp and brake licenses for a period of 18 months prior to the effective date of the regulations. But since we did our last workshop in April, we moved away from that. So all we need is an adjuster or a station to have those licenses active on the effective date of the regulations at this point. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the last slide, or is it just my contact information? And that's what I got.
Thank you, Matthew. Moderator, any panelists have hands up?
This is the moderator. I don't see any hands raised from our panelists, but I'll pause a moment to allow them some time to raise their hands.
Okay.
All right. It appears there are no requests for comments. Would you like me to move to public comment?
Yes, please.
All right. This is the moderator at the direction. I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants can raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and seeing no requests for public comment, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you. All right, up next is Matt Mulkey. So with the implementation of vehicle safety inspections, we have a new license that goes along with that and a new exam. Matt will cover that. Go ahead, Matt.
Hello. I'm Matt Mulkey from the Hardware Certification Schools Unit. deal with making the tests with all the different subject matter experts we have. Could have the next slide, please. So with the new license, we had to make a new exam. We've been working on that for about a year now. We work on that as we get a numerous license brake and lamp adjusters, and we have them make test questions based off of textbooks and laws and regs books and all that kind of stuff. So there's something to back it up. It's not just, well, Bob said it's this. So we make good questions, and we have different subject matter experts, I'm going to call them SMEs, that then review those questions and tweak them a little bit if they need to be. Then we have yet another group of SMEs read the questions once they're all finalized and decide if it's a really hard question, really easy question. And we take all of that and we make an exam out of it. So we've been working on that for the last year, numerous times, in person, online. We got the exam finished up early October. I believe it just had its final editing within the Office of Professional Exam Services. They're the ones that help us with it to make sure everything's on the up and up. I believe the next step is we're going to give it to PSI to put on their computers, and then we'll go look at it on the computer and make sure everything is legible and makes sense when the license applicant comes to take the test, so it looks proper on the computer screen as well. The exam in theory is scheduled for 1-2, but likely it'll be, like Matt said, early in the first quarter of the year. Can't make the exam available until the regs pass. And also, like Matt said, this exam is going to be a one and done. It's not going to be repeating the same exam every 4 years like a new licensee. We've changed it to mimic smog check a bit, where you take the test once and then you do your refresher by continuing your ASCs being current. I believe that's all I have. Well, this exam, once the regs become available, we'll have the brake test available until that date, and then this one will take over. So there shouldn't be an overlap of the test.
All right, Matt, thank you.
Yep.
Moderator, any questions from the panelists?
This is a moderator. I am not seeing any hands. Oh, just kidding. Phil Fournier, looks like he has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if it's possible, but it would be nice if the members of the panel here could get a shot at taking that test just to get an idea of what sort of education is needed for folks to pass it. Some of us have been pretty far away from that brake and lamp field for many years. I once had a brake and lamp license, but boy, it's been a really long time. So I wouldn't even know how to conduct education. I know there's a handbook and so forth to give it some idea, but if that's a possibility, I'd just like to float that idea. And that might.
We specifically don't do that. Like our subject matter experts.
Yeah.
Like for the, let's say, the smog check inspector and repair technician, we specifically don't invite certified instructors because they're teaching. We don't want them to teach the exam.
Yeah, I get that. I
Yeah,
get that.
I'm not saying you would, but there is that.
No, I certainly appreciate that, and I don't want you to do that particularly.
and on the backside, brake and lamp's only 2 out of the 8 parts now that we're testing on. So there is an exam bulletin. Well, brake and lamp is only 2 of the 8 sections of a safety inspection, so there's not as many brake and lamp questions as there was before.
Yeah.
Because now the safety inspection is 8 different sub-components, if you will. So brakes are 1, lamp is 1, suspension is 1, passenger compartment, things like that. So we have test questions on all those separate things. So there is an exam bulletin that we give out to candidates when they apply for their license, and that lists task and knowledge statements. Like a task is to measure brake rotors. The knowledge is how to work a micrometer and what a brake rotor looks like, let's say. I'm just making these up. But so there'll be those things listed as these are what the test questions are about, kind of thing.
All right.
It won't give you a specific test question, but it gives you those.
How about then, like ASE has a task list, which says what the technician should be able to know and do as part of, each of the tests. So you can't get, of course, any questions from the test, but you can get the task list. This is what you're supposed to do. That can be distributed other than to the folks that are applying to take the license? Is that available to educators?
I believe it's going to be available on PSI's website, regardless of whether you're signed up for a test or not. The easiest way to find that out is go to PSI's website and see if you can download the candidate
Task
bulletin.
list?
It's candidate bulletin is what they call it.
What do they call it?
Candidate bulletin, I believe.
Candidate bulletin. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah, and
Thank
if it's available for the smog check without signing up for an exam, then it will be available for the safety as well. Sorry, I didn't have that information.
Okay, but that makes sense, and I appreciate what you're saying there. Yeah, you don't want to teach to the test. I definitely agree with that completely.
I mean, that's going to happen after a year or so. People taking the test, they'll talk, I'm sure, but try and limit it.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
All right. This is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests from the panelists. Would you like to move to public comment?
Yes, please.
All right, this is the moderator, and I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And it looks like we have a request from Roberto. Roberto, I'll request to unmute your microphone. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Welcome, Roberto.
Good evening, good afternoon, guys. My question is on the book, the laws and regulations, the reference book. When is going to be updated for this new safety license systems? Is with the last update was on 2019. When is going to be appearing on this book?
We don't print books anymore since 2019, I believe. Everything's now on our website. That way it's updated as these new laws come in.
Correct. Yeah. It's not a book. Yeah, but it's going to be on, the information is going to be there then, right? Pretty soon.
Well, once the law's adopted, we can't put a law out until it's adopted.
That's correct. Okay. So we expect it on January then. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. Appears there are no further requests. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Okay, we are getting to the end of it here. And before we start the public comments, I wanted to make an announcement that on BAR's website, our homepage, we have a link to a DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion survey that we'd like people to take. Again, somebody mentioned diversity earlier, so this is our attempt and taking steps as directed by the governor. So please, it's going to close in a week and 1 day from today, 11/17, it will close. So please, if you are interested, please go to the BAR webpage and take the DEI survey. With that said, moderator, any public comments, any hands raised?
Great. This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you. Well, again, thanks for everybody that attended, both panelists, our presenters, and members of the public. Very good discussion today on many different topics. And as you can see, as it stands today, our next meeting is scheduled for May 16th, 2024. That is it for today. Thank you very much and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.